And we're live.
Hello and welcome to Inappropriate Characters. This is the RPG pundit, the final boss in internet shitlords. And tonight we have a slight variation in cast, as you might have noticed. Venger Satanis couldn't be with us tonight because, I don't know, I think his wife didn't let him. and so on account of that, no, he had something that was going on, a birthday party or something. So, and he told us, as you know, in classic Venger style, at the very last minute. So after a completely not professional and not extensive search for, potential guest hosts that mostly consisted of me posting in my social media saying, "Hey, does someone want a guest host?" We had a few suggested replies, some very interesting people that made themselves volunteers, and then Job said, "Let's get Brian at Death Trap Games," and so that's what we did in the end, instead of any of the people who had offered themselves as co-hosts. But we have kept a lot of you in mind, and probably in some future episode, those of you who had, volunteered, if you've got any kind of a reputation in either publishing indie stuff or OSR stuff, or even in having a very sizable kind of social media presence, you might end up getting a guest host spot at some future time, because I suspect it won't be the last time that we either are missing one of our regular hosts, or we have to get ourselves a guest host because we have nothing else to talk about. So, today I'm happy to introduce you guys to Brian at Death Trap Games. He's here tonight, and Brian, I would like you to, if you don't mind, to let the audience know a little bit about exactly who you are, what you publish, and why you deserve to be on Inappropriate Characters.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, and I will try my best to fit into Venger's strangely tentacle-shaped and kind of sticky boots. I run Death Trap Games, which is an OSR blog I started back in the late spring, and I've been publishing modules pretty frequently. Most of them are just 5-page dungeon pamphlet-sized modules with a couple of bigger ones. And more recently, I've just started putting out stuff that is, denser, full-size dungeons that are either for OSR games or ICRPG. And I'm got some really big stuff planned for the coming months as well.
Any spoilers about what that big stuff is?
Well, I've got basically every module I've written so far has been kind of leading into a kind of a massive hex crawl structure game. I've got basically 3 books that are each going to have like 6 dungeons and probably multiple hex crawls and a bunch of other stuff once I can get a little feedback from the people who enjoy playing them already.
Okay. And so would you describe that you have a particular style? Like, are your games, so your products largely sandbox style, or are they adventures that have more structure? Are you like very old school, or something else?
What I like to do is I like to create these very short dungeons that have a lot of tactically complicated encounters in them. For example, the one I'll be talking about a little later has one encounter where if your characters aren't stealthy or smart, they're likely to be hanging over a device designed to strip the meat off of a triceratops while people are launching acidic mortars on the ground they're standing on. Later in the same adventure, they're dealing with an area being flooded with boiling water, trying to save hostages. So I create dungeons. I've got a lot of paths, and if you take the obvious one, you're almost always going to get yourself into trouble. But I like to make sure that it's possible in every adventure I write that you can get through it without drawing a sword, and that there's never one straight path through, or there's usually 5 or 6 ways to do the whole thing.
So very true to the name Death Trap, which makes me think of the famous, Steve Jackson, Ian Livingston Death Trap Dungeon and all that. Yeah.
And that book,
is that where you got the name from?
It is. That book in particular, Death Trap Dungeon, got me through a time when I was a kid when I'd had a horrible reaction to a bee sting that had left me so swollen that I couldn't leave the house without scaring the neighborhood kids. So I played that until I won it.
Well, great. Wow. So for any of you listening, if you take a look in the description of our live stream, you'll see that down at the bottom there's a link to Death Trap Games store. So if anyone wants to check out Brian's dungeons, be sure to click on the link there. He hasn't paid us to be here tonight, by the way, just so you know. This is not some kind of a promotion or anything like that. We just, Job likes his style a lot. He recommended him to me. I'll be honest, even though you were following me on Twitter, Brian, I really wasn't, you weren't very much on my radar, but when Job suggested it, I took a look. I thought, yeah, this is all right. Let's put him on here, right? And that way we've got a new voice on Inappropriate Characters, and also you get to promote your stuff.
Cool. Thanks very much.
All right.
Yeah, no problem. Good. Thanks for
Job,
coming on.
any other questions for our guests tonight?
Take it to the chat.
Job?
Crickets. All right. You want to move on into the serial stream? Pundit, you there? Oh, we lost Pundit.
Hello. Yeah.
Oh, there you
we go.
Why don't you tell us what
I'm here,
upcoming products you have?
Me? Okay. I guess we're done with Brian then. That's it. Well, glad to have you on, Brian. Anyways, Job, right now, I haven't, since the last show, I haven't actually made anything, nothing new has actually come out. So my latest product is still RPG Pundit Presents number 103, which is the Medieval Authentic City Guide to Exeter.
Oh crap, I got 102 on the screen for you, but my bad. Going, you're breaking up, Pundit. Oy vey. Okay. Well, now I would shill for him. I can't remember what the name of the product you told me. Oh, his last Last Sun campaign is coming out. I think it's RPG Pundit Presents 103. Hopefully he'll join us again in a second here. Yeah, it looks like he bombed. No, he's here in the chat room, or the video conference. Not sure. Well, just speak up if you show up again, Pundit. Let's see. Maybe try Hey, there you are.
Hello.
There he is.
I'm sorry.
Hey, no problem.
Crappy Uruguayan internet, I guess. Everybody's using it right now. Sorry, I was saying that I'm the World of the Last Sun, which is going to be the big world guide to my gonzo weird fantasy setting, is coming out very soon. I've seen the almost final proof of it. We've got the cover done. Everything's just about ready. So Spectre Press is going to be putting it out very, very soon, probably before Christmas. So you'll be able to get it as a Christmas purchase. And it's going to be, it's a 278 page. It's a compilation of a number of things taken from various RPG Pundit Presents issues in the past, but it's going to be available in print and also PDF. And it's looking really great, I think. So I trust that people are really going to like that. Meanwhile, my other upcoming RPG is still currently in the early stage of editing, I believe, with the Occult Detective Press. So we don't know when that's going to come out. But yeah, the next thing of mine that's probably going to come out is going to be The World of the Last Sun, and it's coming out pretty soon. And it's going to be a fantastic kind of gonzo gaming setting experience. If you like weird fantasy, you're gonna like this this setting.
All right, great. And Vender's not here, but we made a little shill screen for him. His Future Malaise hardcovers are in, and he's got a 50% off till Thanksgiving on the PDF. So I think it's $10. And on your screen, there's a shortened URL that'll get you there. Now for me, still working. Oh gosh, we got Brian on my video, but on my page. But all right, look pretty, Brian. So yeah, still working on Brutal Blades. If you check out the stream, there's just kind of a mock layout of the Thief class. You can kind of get an idea what the look for the book is from Bloody Hammer Games. And last but not least, Brian.
I'm today want to talk about my game, The Bloody Engines of the Dinosaur Men, which is a short dungeon. It's 13 rooms, so it's originally designed as a 5-room dungeon. I find it's really fun to stretch an encounter over 4 or 5 rooms. Your player characters are, for any number of reasons, I like a big room or table when I can put one in. Trying to find out what happened to a bunch of human beings who disappeared up in a mountain. What they find is a factory designed to make packed meat out of triceratopses, ruled over by these crazy dinosaurs with bioweapon technology, and defending their place with guard dogs that are made out of the bits of triceratops they can't use anymore. It has 3 or 4 really tactically complicated encounters and a hell of a lot of really horrible ways to die. It's pay what you want on Drive-Thru RPG.
Nice. Sounds like fun. Hey, we got a question from the chat room for Brian. What are your favorite encounters to write? From Judd Goswick.
My favorite encounters to write are ones where you have a chance of talking your way through them. But if you don't do that, if you piss off the person you're talking to, things get really ugly really fast with a lot of tactical complications. I like a bad guy who can whistle and suddenly there are arrows flying from the trees, or killer traps popping up all over the places, so that there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of really awful ways to die.
All right, and then the follow-up to that is, what are your favorite creatures?
Favorite creature is the gelatinous cube, but I am really, really fond of the intellect devourer as well. Something that kind of can turn one of your player characters into a Trojan horse and ends with an exploding head is awesome.
Aaron the Pedantic asks, Brian, what's your preferred edition?
For D&D, I have played every edition except 4th, but my favorite is still the Rules Cyclopedia version of Basic.
Well done.
All right, Patrick Sanders asks, where do you stand on descending armor class?
It's the way I played for most of my gaming career. I still prefer it, but my players don't, so I use it in my home games and it's in all of my books. But the descending armor class is the first thing you're going to see on all of my stat blocks.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's very grognardy of you.
Well, I never understood why people found THAC0 difficult.
Wow. I guess. In my products, I go with ascending AC and with bonus to hit against AC, and I just think it's a more elegant mechanic, to be honest. And I guess some grognards might not like it, but there we go.
I'm in the ascending camp too. It's just I feel like it's more intuitive. I mean, for most people I talk to that prefer the older descending. I mean, it's to them, they learn it that way, so that's why it's more intuitive to them. But I think for a person off the street learning it, I think ascending has got to be a lot easier to grok.
Oh, ascending is totally an easier way to do things, and it's not a hill I'm going to die on.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, shall we move on to the next topic?
Yeah.
Okay. So our next subject is this was pointed out to me a couple of days ago. I was going to do a video about it, and then I decided, no, I'm going to wait to make it a topic for inappropriate characters. So there's I guess a new version coming out of the Conan RPG that is being done by Modifius.
Yeah, it's already out, actually.
It is, but they're remaking the they've updated the version of it, because apparently they got some serious criticism from very serious people who are deeply concerned about the colonialist imperialist racism in Conan, and demanded that they make certain changes. And so apparently they got some kind of a diversity consultant on board, and they made some changes to the text, because, okay, so I'm going to assume that most of our audience is kind of familiar with Conan, but in case anyone isn't, the basic setting of the Conan world, the Hyperborean age or whatever, it's supposed to be the distant past, right? And so it's theoretically supposed to be like, pre-civilization civilizations, right? Like sort of Sumerian sort of stuff. But in the Conan world, the writing, the novels and stuff, it eventually got expanded to include a whole bunch of places.
Hey, Pundit, it's based on like Herodotus's histories, right?
Well, originally, but then they've added a bunch of countries in there that are basically like a crazy quilt of all the kind of most archetypical, you could say, historical versions of different places. So there's like one place in the Conan world that is like Robin Hood era England, right? And there's another one that's, there are places that are medieval, and then there's a kind of a 1001 Nights sort of Arabian place, and then there's a place that's like, what you imagine classic imperial China to be like, and they're all kind of mixed in together, sort of Mystara style in a way, right? Where like it's completely anachronistic, right? But the important part of this for what we're talking about is that there are parts of some of these countries in the Conan world are based on non-European countries, obviously. And apparently the descriptions that this game had was using extremely racist words. And of course, these aren't racist words like, the classic racist words that you were always taught not to say. That's not what it is. It's the new racist words, the words that none of us knew were racist until just now, when some, college educated gender studies communists decided to say that they're racist, right? So the things that they've had to change are words like, with regards to some of these, non-European based countries, in the descriptions of them, they used a word like mysterious, right? And mysterious apparently is deeply racist when you're using it in reference to a non-white culture, right? Or exotic. Oh my God, like exotic is practically the new N word, right? If you say that some place is exotic, well, then you're basically irredeemable, right? So they had to change these with words like, they replaced mysterious with ancient, and they replaced exotic with different, right? Which is just, besides being a really stupid mangling of the English language, right? It seems to me that it doesn't really serve any purpose at all, other than to have forced Modipius to pay somebody who is otherwise unhirable to act as a political commissar for the stuff that they're doing. And then, like, to top it all off, the one that I think has really gotten to people is how they said the term, because apparently there's some mechanics in there that are about martial arts, right? And they claimed martial arts is a racist term, right? Like, because martial arts, as you all know, is a word that it's originally a Chinese word that we've somehow appropriated. I know that it sounds like we're using, like those are Latin words, right? But no, they must be Chinese words, because apparently if you're saying martial arts, you might as well be calling someone a Chinaman or something like that, right? Like it's so racist and offensive, right? So they changed that term instead, because only Chinese people do, hand-to-hand combat. Only martial arts is only something that happens in Asian culture, right? We all know that. And so they changed that word from martial arts to unarmed combat, even though the mechanics also include a bunch of techniques for weapon combat. So now, in the new version of the game, for you to learn how to do tricks with a sword, you have to take the unarmed combat technique, right? Which makes no sense at all, but at least they're not going to be calling Modifius racist, right?
I was reading through those threads, and everyone's just like, "No, what the hell? This is so stupid." It is.
Hurts my brain.
What are they going to do about the? Have they said what they're going to do about the toxic masculinity in the Conan game?
No, but I'm
I
guessing
dread to think.
I don't know. I find it very funny. I mean, I've got to admit, I haven't read Conan the Wanderer, so I can't say about it, but I mean, I'm guessing that it still vaguely resembles the Conan that I'm familiar with, right? So it seems to me like you're kind of nitpicking on what is otherwise, something that probably the SJW should hate all in general, right? Like, I'm guessing not a lot of the SJW market buys Conan products, right?
Right? Why would they put it in the first place? That was going to be my.
Yeah. So why is Modifius listening to them?
Why? Because they've got like far left game designers inside there that are pushing this shit too, probably.
Well, Modifius doesn't have to make any money, right? It's a branch of Paradox Entertainment. The only reason that they're doing this, the same reason that Disney is running Marvel, is that it's a research and development and marketing focus group for video games, right? They want to see what people are going to respond to, what they can sell, what they can make acceptable to a wider audience before they turn it into a video game and sell it.
That's a very good point, actually, because obviously if you are owned by a big company, then it's a lot safer to totally ruin a tabletop RPG, which has a lot less investment involved in it, than to totally ruin a video game. So this could all just be a type of, how do you call it, a marketing study,
I mean, consider Modifius owns White Wolf as well, right? And last year, somebody tweeted something that nobody liked, and they just yanked Vampire the Masquerade out of White Wolf and tossed it into Modifius, saying, okay, see if you can keep this product valuable, see if you can keep this IP from completely going in the can, because we got a Vampire the Masquerade game coming out in a couple of months.
Yeah, well, and yeah, I guess that's their new job. They're really just, corporate facilitators.
Mm-hmm.
Really funny. I remember when the guys that founded Modifius came out of Cubicle 7, and when both of those were relatively okay companies, but now neither of them are. Speaking of which, on our live chat, Lord Metal Demon says, I guess I'll just add Modifius to my list of game companies to avoid. And, I'm not an advocate of any kind of like boycott movement, but I always tell people, don't buy products from people who hate you, right? It's stupid to buy games made by people who despise you and the type of gaming you like and want you to go away, right? Buy products from people who like you.
Well, the funny thing about Modifius, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
The funny thing about Modifius is that it's kind of like the GOG of role-playing games, right? Any company that's not doing great, or any role-playing game that hasn't reached a big enough market, they buy up the little company and then sell it. I mean, that's why they have Mutant Year Zero, for example.
Yeah,
good point. I haven't really kept my eye on Modifius. Get some of their products, but it's kind of, I don't know, more of a newer style that I just don't really enjoy. So
they ended up on my radar because when I was in elementary school, when I was first playing D&D, one of my best friends' older brother was involved in all the fan subbing and the like that for the anime that was coming into Nova Scotia at the time. And he would be getting these magazines from all around the world about things like role-playing games, comics, and cartoons that you couldn't possibly see where we are. And people were always crazy about Mutant Year Zero in the late 80s. You couldn't ever get it. And so when it finally got translated into English by Modifius, I jumped on it.
A few more comments from the chat here. Bio Gundam says Western martial arts. And Sadwing Raging says martial is a patriarchal term. Judd Goswick, I like this one. He says Savate and Krav Maga are now colonialist murder techniques. Because I mean, this is just a really stupid. It's dumb in just a fundamentally basic way to say, oh, instead of exotic, let's say different, right? Like that's just a dumber way to say the same thing. And it's only because somebody has got this fantasy in their head of the word exotic somehow being in some sense a deprecatory term, right? Like you're insulting someone by calling them exotic, but that's not it. There's no inherent judgment value in the word exotic. But then the idea that what they're saying about martial arts is directly asking us to believe a lie, right? Because martial arts just means the arts of combat, right? Martial comes from Mars, right? The god of war. It's a Latin term, and it just means, so martial arts are literally the art of war, right? And so they're combat techniques, and they're not, if you said kung fu, right, then that would be a Chinese term. But martial arts is not an Asian term. It's not a European term. It's a generic description of any type of combat training, right? So for them to demand that we believe this lie, that it's somehow, racist or colonialist, for us to use a European term for what is, like a universal concept, it just baffles me.
I've gone through a list of all 140 changes that they've made to the book. And there's a couple where they've objectively made the game worse as well, right? They've removed all mention of caste systems, even in the cultures they're supposed to have them in the Conan setting. And they have removed references to a drug road that actually figures into some of the El Sprague de Camp era Conan stories as well. And there's also this wonderful thing where, they changed the martial arts to unarmed feats, but they didn't do it everywhere. So the game is now objectively worse because it's using two terms for the same thing.
Yeah. So I had heard about those, and it's really stupid because it has this, it supposedly they hired some person of color. I don't know who or what. Well, I mean, they have no qualifications that are meaningful apart from their skin color. That's the only reason that they need to be hired, right? But that, and they're probably socialists or something. But I just, that they would impose these changes from things that are real aspects of certain cultures because it doesn't feel politically correct to them to point out those real things about those cultures seems so stupid.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable, right? I want to point out something important here. Unscripted Unchained pointed out in the live chat, the two main writers of this book have asked for their names to be removed from the product, and they no longer work for Modiphius. So it sounds like they themselves were not happy with this. I'm not sure if anyone's got more info on that, or if you know who those guys are, because it sounds like they kind of took a stand, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they got fired for being colonialists or something. I don't know.
I tried to get more info on that by trolling the Modiphius forum and couldn't find anything particularly useful. When they decided they were going to shut down the complaints on the forum, they said, "We have the support of our creative consultants, and there's nothing constructive coming out of you complaining, so this thread is closed and no new ones will be created about it," which was like 11 days ago.
Yeah, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Wait, Michael McLaughlin says, what about slavery? Did they make any changes to slavery in the game? Was there slavery in the first place? I haven't played the Conan system.
In the Conan world, there's slavery.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I
But
don't know if the book itself had anything about that.
I didn't see a lot. I know that they kind of toned down the discussion of it, but I don't think they removed it.
all right, you think we beat this one to death?
Unscripted Unchained said Jason Durrell was one of the writers, and then the other one was Chris Lights.
Not familiar with him.
Well, Jason Durrell is on the October surprise loyalty list, so that tells me that he's definitely not some kind of a strong libertarian.
Yeah. Well, was that a segue? Was that an attempt at a segue?
Chris Lights. They're both they're both, gamers for Marxist government, for stealing elections. So yeah, I guess that is our segue. We can go ahead. You can go ahead, Job, and explain the next topic.
All right, I just wanted to bring this one up because it's just so fucking hypocritical. But so I'm sure a lot of the people on the show seen the game October-surprise.com, which was like Gamers for Her from 2016. The website with a bunch of, there's a lot of the same signatories on this one, but it's a bunch of people that signed public petition saying they support Biden and Harris. So anyway, so I just wanted to read the first two paragraphs on here because this is kind of their mission statement, and it's just so ridiculous. Hey gamers, it's an October surprise. In the last couple weeks, the Trump team has tossed out the traditional cockamamie surprises in October, hoping to swing the vote towards them. Hunter Biden's stolen laptop, Iranian Proud Boy conspiracies, miracle drugs that miraculously don't exist, all a fever dream from the Fox News cinematic universe. It's all an attempt to distract from their complete lack of fitness to govern. Hundreds of thousands of dead from COVID-19, white supremacy on the rise, an economy in shambles, a climate on the brink of ruin, a president threatening the peaceful transfer of power. All their fault. So, I don't know, I just thought it was ridiculous. I mean, the only thing that even in the list that would be an actual October surprise would be I'm pretty sure that Trump presidency had some hand in that laptop coming to seeing the light of day. I don't doubt it's authentic, but all miracle drugs that miraculously don't exist. I think that's the COVID-19 vaccine that Pfizer waited until a week after the election to announce, even though they already had it. So anyway, there's 300 plus people on here. I mean, a lot of people I'm actually friends with and came to my wedding and stuff, but buried right in the middle of the list, and I didn't go through every single person, but they have Matt Fantastic, who of course is the guy who punched Jeremy Hambley, the quartering, in the head, totally unprovoked, and not even when the guy was looking at a bar, and ended up getting arrested over it. And Sean Patrick Fannin, who he was one of the founders of Drive-Thru RPG, I think. Been around in a bunch of stuff, but he was accused in 2018 of very publicly on N-World of sexually harassing, making some kind of advances at women at cons or something. Mm-hmm. But I'm just kind of shocked that all these social justice-y types who probably they at least condemned Sean Patrick Fannin, and they shied away from Matt Fantastic, that they're totally fine with letting these guys sign on to their petition now. Critical. You guys look through the list and see anybody else on there?
So well, there's something like 400. There's almost 500 names on the list. The important thing to me is that there was the same kind of, maybe not quite as much as in 2016, but pretty close, the same kind of social media pressure where they put out, they made a big publicity about this list in social media circles among game designers, and very strongly suggested that you needed to sign this to show your loyalty to Biden-Harris cause, with the implication being, of course, that if you didn't, there would be consequences, right? And so the funny thing is, as some people in the chat are already pointing out, maybe like half of these guys are actually credited game designers in some way, and the rest of them are like, oh, I have a feminist blog or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm,
We lose you again, Pundit?
We lost him. He'll be back in a second. Yeah, I mean, Mike Merle signed on to this thing, and
I'm sure it blew my mind that we had so many guys who were like really early on in development, like names I recognize from the mid 90s. It's like, you guys are old enough to remember the Satanic Panic, right? You're old enough to remember that generally speaking, the people in charge are all idiots, and you're not gonna you're gonna get screwed one way or the other. I mean, I'm a Canadian. And right now, American politics is like being the guy strapped to the back of the race car. He's just kind of riding along screaming. And I've got my own idiot prime minister to worry about, but good God, neither of them were fit to run to run the country to begin with. Why are you deciding you have to be very strident about idiot A instead of idiot B?
It's Mike Merles was on there. I'm sure he's kind of like I don't know. I mean, he's probably left
Hello.
wing, but
There you are.
back.
Motherfucker, completely. I hate this connection. Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah, we
you
can
were in
hear
the middle
you.
of something, but we don't hear what you were saying.
Sorry, where did I get cut off? What was I saying when I got cut off?
We were talking about how much it resembled the Gamers for Her stuff a few years earlier.
Yeah, well, the thing is, a lot of the people that signed, I think, signed because they don't want to get blacklisted later, because there's this strong implication that if you don't, you know, that you need to sign this to show your loyalty, right? I mean, we're living in an era now where Democrat congressmen and senators have said that we need to start making enemies lists of people who supported Trump so that they can be, you know, hunted down and re-educated or whatever, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised that you know, there were a lot of people that were afraid enough even before that, because they knew the kind of maniacs that are around them, that even if they didn't really strongly believe it, they were gonna, you know, sign this just to you know, not get into trouble later.
Mm-hmm. And to what end? I mean,
Because they
why
want to
the
work in the
hell do you
RPG
care?
industry or whatever the fuck that is. I mean,
Yeah, you know, when I got out of university, I wanted to be a writer. I wrote a couple of novels. I spent years sending them to publishers and getting them sent back, right? And I realized back then it's a sucker's game, and it's no different than any other industry. You wait for somebody else to give you money and give you a job. You're never going to make the money you need anyway.
yeah.
Damn right. So
But
yeah, it's very funny how these guys have set this up, and the pomposity of the, you know, the name now is just even more ridiculous, right? So that, like, they are single-handedly taking down the evil Trump regime, you know.
yeah, you know, that's one thing I don't get is like these people that call themselves the resistance is like, you know, their values are reflected in like every mainstream media outlet, every newspaper. So I don't know. For me, I've always been kind of a countercultural guy. Like, you know, I I don't understand how these people can think they're like anti-establishment when they're completely establishment. You know.
You're not anti-establishment if you're trying to cover your ass so you can get hired by a large corporation.
Right. Exactly. But I think you're probably right about the, you know, getting hired. I mean, a lot of the names on there I noticed were people from Seattle area, and I've definitely, I mean, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure there's kind of like a blacklisting type of thing that goes on. Because I've had multiple times where like someone contacted me about doing some RPG work, and then they just disappear.
God damn.
And I don't know what I have no idea what I ever did to piss some certain person off or whatever. But I'm pretty sure they're like whisper about like, oh, that guy's a dick or something. I don't know. I really don't know, but it's happened like 3 times where like somebody kind of have reached out like, hey, we're interested in you doing, you know, would you be interested in maybe this project? I'm like, yeah, cool, let's talk about it. And then they just stop responding. They never talk to me again. I'm like, hey, kind of weird. And
Well,
yeah,
I was
definitely,
before I got cut off yet again. I was
guys
going to
for
say,
years have been, you know, who is that? Nicole Lindrus or whatever. Like, I think that's Chris Premis's wife, or She's like she was the one
Yeah.
that ran the
Yeah, Green Ronin.
Yeah, she ran the Gen Con like event board. I'm sorry, guest board for like years and years. So that's why you ended up with like Anita Sarkeesian and all these like super far left and like all these game designers you never freaking heard of. At Gen Con. They quit it. They ended that now. I don't know. I think maybe Gen Con was like, all right, you guys are just like too old boy network or something, and they stopped the, I don't know what they call it, a featured guest thing or something. But I had applied for a bunch of years trying to get to be a guest at Gen Con because the people on the list, I was like, oh, these people are fucking nobody, so why could I make it? But you know, I figured I'd never get picked, so I'd always like send in all my my applications with like the most ridiculous ideas for panels. One of them was like about making bone flutes. Like I make a flute out of a bone, and then you get to learn Yankee Doodle Dandy or something. I can't remember. I'll send it to you guys if I find it. But
so I was saying before I was cut off yet again that these guys are the resistance in exactly the same way that the East German Stasi was defending the revolution. Right. The idea is they are now the establishment, but they're still the revolution of the 1960s. Right. They get to pretend that they're still fighting some kind of an enemy rather than being the people in power, you know.
I cannot read with my glasses.
And I mean, they're now so obviously in power that they were able to, you know, commit open electoral fraud, and you know, nobody, you know, the entire establishment covered it up for him, you know.
Yeah. But Aaron was asking me why I was published by Lamentations of the Flame Princess.
I think he's trying to rib you there.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what he's trying to say, but anyway, I don't know. James is always
sure
getting
if he means that in a good way or
himself.
Well, certainly after you publish something as hardcore as Lamentations of the Flame Princess, I can probably imagine that would scare the hell out of someone trying to make a family-friendly Garfield grade role-playing game.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, that was a while ago, but yeah, it could have been that too. My reputation, my writing preceded me, I guess. I don't know. There is an article that I've had a hard time getting job interviews after my Towers 2 came out, because if you Google my name, like one of the articles that pops up says Joe Bittman, Lord of the Cock Rings. It's like a review of Towers 2. So I think my management
Brian,
days are behind me.
Did you say a family-friendly Garfield game? Is that
yeah,
what you said?
Sorry, I like I said, I pay a lot of attention to comics, even though I don't read them anymore. And you know, you get to the point where you look at what's still getting published in newspapers, and it, like, you know, what comics are still being put in the most anodyne places, and Garfield is the first one that comes to mind, to the point where in the people paying attention to that kind of comic, it's a metaphor for lifeless, anodyne, committee-approved work.
Well, now I think that everybody watching this needs to go tell James Raggi that they want to see him do a take on Garfield. I would love to see Lamentations of the Flame Princess take on Garfield. So go forth and tell him about that, right?
I got a great recommendation for anyone who wants to see something truly eerie, which is there's a web comic called Garfield Without Garfield, where these guys are just taking comics and taking out Garfield from it. It's because, I mean, the whole point of it was it's this guy talking to his cat about his single life. And when you remove Garfield's punchlines, it just becomes this dark, sad thing about this extremely depressed and neurotic bachelor. It's absolutely the most miserable, depressing thing you can ever read.
Well, that's because Jim Raggi hasn't published his Garfield yet.
This is true.
The Lamentations of the Orange Cat, you know. There's just so much he could do with it, you know.
Jim.
Yeah, speaking of which, I tried to get him on the show. He said, I think he copped out. He said, he's like, I'll do it if I didn't even mention it to you, Pundit, but like, I'll do it if RPG Pundit comes on camera. And I was like, all right, get out of here. You're just fucking making shit up. So if you ever do come on, camera, Pundit, we'll hold James's feet to the fire.
Oh, there we go. I've always said if somebody, you know, sends me a $10,000 donation, I'll show up on camera. Yeah. So, if someone really wants it bad enough, go right ahead. Anyway, I don't know whether we have anything else to talk about regarding the October surprise bunch. Anyone have any closing comments?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a handy list of people you should probably not try to work for ever.
Or buy from.
Yeah, they want to virtue signal. They probably don't want to actually pay you, or you know, they're all capitalists until I don't know what the hell I was saying. Never mind.
The people on this list, a lot of them anyways, in Twitter and such, even while they were publishing this list, were suggesting that anyone who votes Republican is basically a white supremacist. So
oh yeah, they had put it twice in the
to buy their products.
Yeah, they put it twice in the thing. I think it's curious too that I don't know why. I don't think Perkins and Crawford signed that thing either time. A bunch of other WotC people did though, so I don't know. Those guys think they're too cool for school or something.
Well, maybe. I've got two theories about that. You know, one is that they maybe had some kind of a contractual obligation to not take that. I don't know. It seems like, given the sort of stuff that Crawford has occasionally and Perkins have occasionally posted on their Twitter, I guess it would seem weird to me that they would not be allowed to do that. But the other is there were quite a few people, actually. Some of the most hardcore SJWs didn't sign that, and I think that it's because they are worried that very soon supporting Biden will be white supremacy, right? Because, you know, let's say that they get away with the shenanigans that they did and we end up with a Biden presidency, right? The immediate tactic of the SJW left will be to declare that that's white supremacy and that that's what they have to fight against, right? So I think they're kind of looking ahead to the future and didn't want to be seen to endorse a candidate that they're very soon going to be considering their main enemies, you know.
And Democrats didn't think they'd ever lose another election to the Republicans. They're probably already sharpening the knives to figure out which Democrats get to be the enemy next.
Yeah, well, there's a civil war going on in the Democratic Party. You know, there's because, you know, when you ignore the fact that they cheated on the presidency, if you look at every other part of the election, the Democrats lost badly, right? Like they didn't get any of the gains they wanted. They had massive losses in the House. They had losses in all of the state legislatures, the governorships. So obviously the mainstream Democrats are blaming this on having hitched their wagon to the far progressive left, right? Well, the far progressive left is saying, no, this is because we weren't radical enough, right? So you're going to see this fight very similar to one that happened in the UK in the Labour Party. Right. And over there in the UK, at least the initial, up until very recently, it was the extreme left that won that fight because, of course, they're much more vocal and mobilized, and they can primary people and stuff like that. So, there's a very good chance that what'll happen now is that you're going to have a lot of conflict within the Democratic Party itself, with the party, on the one hand, the Pelosi crowd trying to get rid of or minimize the influence of the AOC crowd, while the AOC crowd is trying to like destroy everybody in the Pelosi side. You know?
Well, we might be rid of Pelosi soon here.
Well, if AOC gets her way, like they're gonna definitely try to remove her as Speaker of the House.
All right, we got anything else to talk about? Is there anything else in the chat room?
Dracopole says hardcore SJWs like Fred Hicks refused to sign the October surprise. My man, he's a dyed-in-the-wool Trump voter.
Well, he's on there.
You heard it here first.
I saw Fred Hicks on there, definitely.
Oh, was he? Oh, no, there you go, Dracopole. That's fake news, Dracopole. Fake news.
I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure I saw him. He's one of those names that stands out. Yeah, he's on there.
Dracopole says Biden is just a senile fall guy who has a gang of four, just like Mao did. So elements in the Democrats will start a new extreme regime that Biden didn't even intend. Yeah, that seems extremely likely, actually. Anyway, I was gonna, I don't know, we're getting close to ending time here, so maybe we were gonna maybe talk a bit more about the election and about you know, the Great Reset and stuff like that, but given that we're already close to the hour, I don't know if we've got that far to go. Does anyone on the live chat have any questions, gaming related preferably, but maybe not, that you would like us to cover before we start finishing up here? While people are writing their questions, I'll remind everyone that if you like our show, if you want to support us, if you want Venger to be able to come on more often, and for us to keep having interesting guests here like Brian, support us on Patreon. Obviously, subscribe to our channel if you're watching this and if you're not subscribed yet, and share this video. But if you support us on Patreon, that'll give us more push to get more stuff done and to be able to make more of a presence in terms of Venger getting to stay up later and all of that. Yeah, I guess that's it. Also, obviously, support our individual products. Check out again Death Trap Games Store. The link is in the description below. Check out all of my products. The RPG Pundit Presents, the Spectre Press site on drive-through has all of the RPG Pundit Presents series, and they're pretty cheap. You know, they're between $1 and $5, and so it's like you're buying me a coffee, but you're getting products that you can really use. There's 103 of them, so you're gonna find something you like there. And of course, check out my bigger products like Lion and Dragon, Dark Albion, Arrows of Indra, the Medieval Authentic Companion. I'm sure I've missed a few there, Cults of Chaos, and some others. Judd Goswick has a question for you, Joe. Brutal Blades, how close to done?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, I got a ways to go on it, but I'm pulling, you know, hell or high water. I'm trying to get the playtest rules out by GaryCon next year. That's what I'm shooting for. So I think I'm actually going to print them and just sell them at a pretty minimal price. For like, you know, 4 classes and levels like 1 through 3 is what I'm shooting for. So you know, keep listening to the show and I'll talk about it as it gets closer. Thanks for asking.
Judd Goswick says, Pundit, I'd like to hear your take on the Great Reset. Yeah, maybe I will do it on my channel. I don't know. I tend not to do purely political videos on my own channel, but the main thing I wanted to point out about the Great Reset that I think I have time to point out tonight is that, you know, there are a lot of conspiracy theories on the right. Of course, there's a lot of them on the left too, and we've seen that. Like the October surprise main blurb there is full of conspiracy theories, like, you know, there was no vaccine coming, and, you know, we knew that, and we know that's not true now because it's just that Pfizer chose not to reveal it when it would have helped Trump. But there are certain right-wing conspiracy theories. A lot of the QAnon stuff is just blatant conspiracy theories. But the Great Reset isn't. I mean, the Great Reset, you just have to go on Amazon. There's a book called The Great Reset by Klaus Schwab, the the head of the World Economic Forum, who started the Doha debates, right? These guys, they're not, this isn't some kind of secret thing. They're completely open about it. There are videos promotional videos that explain their whole idea of what they want to remake society into, with the main theme being, you will own nothing and you will be happy, right? Like that's what they want, right? And it's blatant, and it's very much there, and they've admitted to all of it. They're not trying to hide any of it, because they're so convinced that they're in the right, that what they want is to have replace the traditional national democracies with a world technocratic oligarchy, where they get to control every detail of your life in the name of, basically a kind of a social justice. It's really what it really is the fundamental idea that Schwab and company have is from this German concept of Interessengruppens, that you have a social duty, which we've seen in gaming too. We've seen some gamers suggest, oh, you're not allowed to do something, not just something that would be triggering to someone in your party. You can't do anything that would be triggering to anyone in the world, because you have a social responsibility to everyone, even the people that aren't in your group, right? Which is bullshit, right? This is nonsensical European, leftist philosophy, right? But that's their core concept, is they believe that for the good of the whole, then the really smart people, which is them, they think they're the ones that are so brilliant that they're able to control society, should be in charge and should determine how everybody else gets to run their lives. And well, Tarantul says it's communism, but it's technically not exactly that. It's closer in some ways to like traditional fascism, right? The idea is the government will demand a social control over corporations. Any comments?
Right, that used to be the definition of fascism, right? Is like the merging of
well,
corporate and state interests, but now they
that's
changed
literally
it.
the book definition of fascism. That is fascism, Mussolini style, right from the beginning.
Yeah, I can't believe anyone would think this is conspiracy theory, especially on the left, right? In my 20s, I was, radical feminist, very big with the on stuff like ad busters and the like. And I mean, this was stuff that was being talked about in every university cafe I ever visited. How have we forgotten that during the Occupy Wall Street movement, this is exactly what we were talking about?
Yeah, back when the left was anti-globalist, yeah, they all recognized this as real, right? But now that they've all become globalists, they don't.
Yeah, I don't get it at all. I can't even like understand there's like huge mass of people in this country, at least. It's just like I don't understand their thinking whatsoever.
Well, I think the genuine grassroots leftist movement has been completely subverted. I pointed this out in one of my recent videos, which bothered some people because they thought I was defending Marxism, but I'm not. But I want to point out that from the traditional perspective of Marxism, the SJW movement is not a true revolutionary Marxist movement. It's rather a perfect example of a subversion of the revolution by the bourgeoisie, by the educated, commerce-based upper middle class, right? The corporations and the people in the establishment have promised these SJW protesters that by aligning yourself to their causes and by worrying about everything other than class and poverty, but rather, worrying about race, right, gender and things like that, that they're going to be able to get the power that they so desperately want. And it's of course a lie, because the plan is going to be that they're all going to be turned into drones with everybody else, right? Or the power is going to stay in the hands of the overeducated elites. And I'm speaking as someone that comes from the background of the overeducated elites, right? You run into Sorry.
I was just saying, I was talking to someone earlier, and they were saying that I was saying that you know, a lot of the social justice stuff getting pushed into like D&D and gaming and all your favorite hobbies or whatever. To me, it seems like it's you know, it's marketing, it's corporate marketing, and they're trying to target kids that are in the demographic that they've traditionally tried to target their products to, right? But like we all have to suffer for the, you know, corporate trying to market to, you know, millennials and Gen Z people, you know.
Oh, it's absolutely just a branding thing, right? They don't
Yeah.
actually give a care, because if they did, they'd take a totally different approach to all of this.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
I don't know.
just
It
a
seems really
cynical
cynical
move.
because to me it feels like, you know, these kind of ideas are like dangerous to democracy, and you know, just blindly kind of pushing the stuff cynically to try to get more, you know, sell more D&D Essentials box sets or whatever the hell it is I don't know. I think it's just really irresponsible and it's disgusting, frankly.
Yeah, it's a neoconservative globalist subversion of genuine leftist protest movements, you know. JP Morris asks, Pundit, what are the odds people come out of this madness free? To be honest, I really don't know. I'm much less optimistic than I used to be, because the COVID lockdowns were a kind of test. You know, there was Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, just admitted that on video very recently, right? And what this test proved to me is that a much larger percentage of people than I thought are absolute fucking moral cowards who are going to completely go along with a total stripping of their freedoms if they're promised the right kind of security, or if they're guilted into it by the right kind of suggestion of being responsible for the needs of others, right, or something like that. So it means that if they're going to do that over this lockdown, they're going to do that for other things too. And I think that this has proven them. This is what's made the Great Reset people feel so bold about it, is that they've seen the vast majority of people, when you tell them, well, we're going to just take away all the freedoms for you, it's for your own good, people go, yeah, okay, I guess I've got to do it, because otherwise, you know, it could be dangerous, or I might hurt other people, and you know, people might judge me, so I better not, you know, I better not resist in any way, you know, and that's fucking terrifying. You know?
Yeah.
L has an important question for LM Lil, sorry, has an important question for us. Does it hurt to know that none of you will ever be as popular as anime dog girls? I'm not sure where that comes from, but you know, I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over that, LM Lil. I'm as popular as I need to be, I guess.
If I cared about being popular, I wouldn't be writing OSR role-playing modules.
Touche.
Right, exactly.
I'm not sure what the question was in reference to, like if there were specific anime dog girls that he was thinking about. If maybe there's a simultaneous live stream of anime dog girls going on and we're getting our asses kicked, or what's going on here, you know?
I can't. How can we possibly beat porn? Come on.
Yeah, I think if you're even trying to beat porn, assuming you're not porn yourself, then you're really like, that's a loser's game, you know. Like, only
Are you talking
Ben
about Grim now?
Oh.
All right.
I was thinking about the other day. I was on that other stream. I was like, oh man, Grim's gonna be rich, and I was like, wait a second, nobody gets rich off porn anymore. What the hell? This isn't 2000.
If you can't figure out if you can make money off of porn with Pornhub being free, I'm truly impressed by you.
Right? Yeah, they're gonna have to start. I don't know, putting something in the water. That's what the government's next thing is. I mean, they put stuff in the water so it takes guys like 5 times longer to come, and then you know, you actually have to pay for the porn videos and memberships to get anywhere. So it's coming. No pun
JP Morris
intended.
has a more serious question for us. He says, do you think there's room in the gaming market for more than one game to be the top dog? or will D&D be the king until this hobby dies? Either of you guys want to take that first?
I don't know. I mean, that's always been a whatever truism, or maybe not a truism, whatever saying, and you know how D&D does is how the RPG market does, or whatever. Um, I think it's kind of true. Still, I mean, 5e brought in a lot of new players. I don't know if they're people that are going to stick around to play anything else that doesn't have gender neutral squirrel people in it or something, but I don't know. That's my thought.
I don't
Right.
think D&D really has always been on top, right? It's always been kind of a gateway. But you look at, there's been multiple times where it's lost out to stuff like Vampire the Masquerade and
Or
Pathfinder.
Pathfinder, I guess
Yeah.
Pathfinder, right? They
Well,
took it over
there's
for a
been
while.
literally 2 times, yeah.
Yeah.
The first was when second edition was not doing well and got taken out by Vampire as the top game.
Mhm.
And the other time was when D&D decided to not make a D&D game. They made 4th edition instead, and they got their asses kicked by Pathfinder. But in both those cases, it was still one game that ended up being kind of the top dog, right?
Oh, yeah.
Though D&D was then a very close second in a way.
I'm actually really curious as to whether in the long run Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are going to find making a role-playing game of D&D all that profitable. A lot of people are, as you've pointed out yourself, a lot of times as a lifestyle brand. They could very easily sell D&D without ever selling another role-playing game.
Yeah, I think 5th edition is obviously doing very well, but I think that if 5th edition gets, if there's pressure inside Wizards to make a new edition that would get rid of all the evil stuff that they think it has, right? And by that I mean, the SJWs try to make their own 6th edition. It'll do terribly bad, and that'll probably be the end of it, because after that, Hasbro will probably just make an evergreen product, it might be 5th edition again, or it might be, just to have a generic D&D of some kind. And then they're not going to make new products. They're just going to have the existing RPG products and then focus on, as you say, the lifestyle brand of D&D.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer Morris's question, I'd say there's usually, D&D is usually the vanguard of the industry. I don't think you'll ever see a situation where there's a diversity of products unless something like what I just described happens and there's essentially no D&D anymore, in which case then what you'll see is probably a much reduced hobby, but where certain products like the OSR or whatever is the successor of the OSR will end up becoming more popular because of people looking for new stuff to run that isn't available from D&D anymore. Because that's the other thing that got created at the time, was with 4th edition, the popularity of OSR was in a great part. The popularity of 4th edition was in a great part thanks to the failure of 4th edition.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what effect all these COVID lockdowns of crushing small businesses, what that's going to do to the game store too.
The game store
my town's pretty much dead.
Is kind of irrelevant to the industry. The industry sales are from bookstores and mainly from online sales now, I think, from Amazon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the industry being D&D in this case, right? Obviously, the game stores were something useful to medium press, but the problem is nowadays the small press, like most OSR publishers, can't get a a deal for getting those books in the game store in the first place. So it doesn't help them. What it helps is largely the medium press games, of which there are very few these days that are in that spot, right?
Right.
Either you're big enough for your books to be in, Barnes and Noble or whatever, or you're too small to be in a gaming store.
All right. What do you guys think? I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you to everybody who's watched. Again, please subscribe to the channel, share this video everywhere. Subscribe to my channel too. The link is in the description below. Check out, big thank you to Brian Rideout for being here with us, and be sure to check out his products. We've got a link to the Death Trap Games store on drive-through in the description below. You guys have any final comments?
Oh, thanks a lot for having me. I really had a good time.
Yeah, thanks for
we might
coming.
have
I really appreciate it. You filling in when we needed somebody.
Anytime.
By the way, the next show, guys, is going to be, presuming that we continue our schedule, it will be the 20th of December. So just before Christmas, it'll be the Christmas episode.
All right. Maybe we'll have a
20th.
president by then.
Well, I wouldn't bet on it, but mark your calendars anyways, guys. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Well, you'll either have a president or a civil war, one of the two.
All right. Lock those fridges. Get that ammo.
Take care, guys.
Night, everybody.